suffering and neglect. Tired of centuries of disrespect.
Gotta take your knee off my neck.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Oh.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Sick and tired.
No more mothers crying, no more others dying. Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
We just can't go on this way. We've got to break these chains. Now's the time to make a change. Together we can start a brand new day.
And a mom,
Say the name.
Orlando, Freddie, Eric, and
Say
Jamal.
the name.
Sandy, George, and Brianna.
Say
Make me wanna scream and holler.
sick and tired.
So sick and tired. No more mothers crying, no more others dying. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. No more mothers crying, no more others dying. Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
We can't
No more mothers
breathe.
crying, no more others dying. Sick and tired of being sick and tired.
We can't breathe.
Being sick and tired.
No justice, no
Sick and tired of
peace.
being sick and tired.
I'm so tired.
Being sick and tired.
No justice, no peace.
Being sick and tired.
I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Friday edition of Conversations with Al McFarlane. Glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Fridays, we call this the Healing Circle. It's our partnership with the African American Child Wellness Institute. And our theme is how does our community address the question of the impact of COVID-19? And the particular specific mission and vision of the Institute in this collaboration is to talk about trauma, about the impact of trauma in the lives of children and their families, and how COVID-19 and other trauma feed into that. So we're pleased to have the team that works on the African American Child Wellness Institute gathering here today. We meet regularly throughout the week. Last week we had a wonderful meeting with our team talking about the potential, the promise, the fears around vaccination. And it was such a good conversation. We thought it would be awesome to replicate and build on that for today. I want to begin by introducing the co-convener, the driver in the work of the African American Child Wellness Institute, Dr. Bravada Garrett Akinsanya. Dr. B, we call her. Dr. B, how are you? Good afternoon. Good to see you as always.
Thank you so much, brother. I'm glad to be here. I'm just excited about this conversation and the brilliant genius of our team, sharing it with our community and their wonderful spirits. I'm just delighted that we're having this conversation. Thanks for doing this with us.
Well, let's do this in the same format that we use for our regular team meetings. Dr. B, you've introduced me to a process called the Healing Circle. And so we've been calling this Friday program the Healing Circle in honor of that process. And we've used a process where there is after the meeting is convened, a talking stick that we share one to the other. So I would like to see if we can adopt that process for this program, because our intent is to continue this into an open and expanded engagement with the community, hopefully starting next week, where we meet as a panel of experts, friends, leaders, healers, and discuss a particular aspect of the challenge of health in our community. And having done that, we create a place, maybe a second room that people can go to for in-depth and more engaged involvement with members of the panel of experts we've assembled to cover this question of trauma, the question of COVID-19, the question of mental health, the work of the African American Child Wellness Institute. So having said that, how should we do this? operating on the assumption that I have the speaking stick, and Dr. B, I'm going to hand it to you, and you can hand it to the next person in the group, and we can go from there.
Thank you. I just took it from you. Thank you, my brother. I am happy to talk about the Healing Circle and what we're trying to attempt to do as a team. I'm so grateful that some months ago, my sister Yolanda Lee and I talked about what the vision was for this, and we shared that vision with you, and you said that you could actually make that happen given technology and all those issues. So we're glad to bring that Afrocentric process into our community forum. So the first thing I want to just say is that the whole point of the healing circles is to address the long-term and current traumas that we're experiencing as a people. And that trauma continues from generation to generation. And we were already traumatized before we even got to COVID-19. So I'm just going to say that my contribution is to create a space of wellness for people to feel welcome and a place to become knowledgeable about COVID-19 and other things that are killing us. So with that said, I'm going to pass the talking stick to Yeli Akinsanya. Here you go, Yeli.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm hoping that we'll have another great discussion, exploration of the issues that are basically confronting us in our communities today, the pandemic, and we'll have the same level of conversation that we had last week during our special meeting. And then, having said that, I'm going to pass this on to Ms. Yolanda Lee. There you go, our expert, healing cycle expert.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor and a privilege. It's an honor and a privilege to be among such grand and great elders of our community and in this important progress that we are trying to make. The circle, as we all know, is a part of our heritage as African people, both from Africa and now in the United States of America. We have had such a great and rich history of policing our own selves, of being healers and deliverers and encouragers of our people and of our community. And we want to continue to celebrate and pass, as our elders have said and taught us, as my grandmother taught me, each one reaches back and brings another. And that's how we continue to enrich and celebrate our antiquities. We want to utilize those strengths and those wealth of wisdom from our elders and from those in our community now. How do we do this in a way that not only celebrates who we are, but defines where we're going? And so we are very, very fortunate to have those in our midst, such as Dr. B and Mr. McFarlane, Mr. Yelly, and the rest of our illustrious team. So with that being said, I think I'd like to pass our talking stick to Mr. Ted Thompson, man of the hour.
Hello, thank you for the talking stick. I really appreciate those words. I think we have a long history. I think we have come through many challenges in our history. And at every turn, I think we have tried to construct ways to unite, ways to communicate, ways to remain resilient in the face of adversity. We face today a very difficult challenge both in the sense of some social issues such as systemic racism, but also in the health arena with the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I hope that at this point we can talk about some of the fears and some of the myths that surround this experience, and once again develop ways to become more aware and moving forward toward prosperity. With that, you know, I'm a life coach, so I really do believe in problem solving. So let's get that unity and problem solving moving forward. With that, I will pass it to Donna Morris.
Lisa Clemens. Donna's not here today, so you guys are stuck with me. I'm the founder of a Mother's Love Initiative. And this month for Black History, I've been paying tribute to African American women, and I would be remiss to not thank Dr. B, because without her outreach to all of us who are involved in this initiative, we wouldn't be here. So I want to thank her for that, and thank her for introducing the Black community back to trauma conversations, back to mental health conversations, and now in the conversation of COVID. So I'm grateful to be here. Thank you, Al McFarlane, for the invite. And I'm Lisa Clemens, y'all.
And you have to pass the stick to somebody.
Oh, wait. I got to pass the stick to my girl, Sherilyn.
Oh, hey, Lisa, how are you and everybody else? I've been on Zoom all day since 10 o'clock. I've been on Zoom all day since 10 o'clock. Soon I'm going to be the COVID queen. Oh my God.
You're getting feedback. Sherilyn, you must have two devices open.
Oh my God. No, just one.
I
think I only have one.
Okay.
I think I only have one.
Do you hear the echo?
I do. Oh, hold on. Let me close that. How is it now?
Here we go.
Is it just one now?
Perfect.
Okay, it was the blackboard from the other one.
Mm-hmm.
I am great, just happy to see all of us working together to try to educate our community and to ensure that they have the information necessary to be equipped to make the proper decisions and to acquire the necessary vaccines. That part is very important, particularly since many in our community mistrust the healthcare system. And many in our community are equipped only with misinformation or fear from what has happened in the past, historical trauma, which even I have not gotten over. But it's critical and essential that we do get past this, because many of us say, I don't trust that vaccine. They're just experimenting on us. And for those, I've got to say, because we've had vaccines for the last 50 some years, 60 some years, we no longer have polio or smallpox. And many of you do not know what polio or smallpox even is. It's just a word you heard, and you were immunized against that in grammar school and growing up. And polio kills as smallpox did, but polio also paralyzed many people. So the blessing is you don't know about those really. That's just a word to you. But the importance in this whole conversation is at some point, COVID will be just a word after we figure out the whole genome and DNA sequence of COVID and all its variants to try to fight it and contain it just as we did the polio diseases. So for those people, these conversations are so important. The ability to ask questions and to have their questions answered in this kind of time frame and session is very important, because if people do better when they know better, and our people are not ignorant. They might be misinformed, they might be frightened, but that's what this show is about, and others like it, to educate and allow people the forum to ask their questions and receive proper information. So thank you, Al, for having me and the rest of the gang.
Great.
And I'm gonna pass it off to Brenda Lyle Gray.
Perfect.
Hello.
Hey, Brenda.
Hi. I haven't met some of you, but I am a columnist and writer for Insight News. I am a fan of Dr. B. And I'm just really, really grateful to Al McFarlane for giving me an opportunity to write. God waited till my winter season and let me publish a book at 70. And then, yeah, by Al Parazim. So anyway, I don't know if all of you know, Al and I went to kindergarten together.
Oh, Lord.
Wow.
Yeah. And I became a revolutionary at 5 years old. And he tells that story all the time because we had to sit on a dance hall floor for kindergarten. And I got a brand new snowsuit from my favorite uncle. And that day I wasn't going to sit on the floor.
Ooh.
So they had to call my father at the post office. I stayed on punishment for a year because he couldn't touch me. My mother wouldn't allow that. But, yeah, and I've been a revolutionary ever since. But I am thrilled to just work with Insight News. Al McFarlane has changed my life. And so I give thanks to the Father every minute of the day, and the fact that I'm still here. So giving thanks. Thank you. So I'm writing. If you see me, I take notes.
And did Tanaya get in? Did she get in? She was backstage.
Oh, I'm passing the stick.
Yeah.
Did we get everyone?
I don't see anyone else.
So where do I pass it? Back to the host? R?
You could give it to Al. He can take it.
Okay, great. I'll take it back. Thank you, Brenda. That was wonderful. Yeah, and so I'm like Brenda said, so pleased that we've reconnected and that we're able to work together here, both at the age that we are, and it's a blast. I'm just lucky to be connected and have a chance to talk about our profession, our writing, our gifts, and to talk about our people. So thank you, Brenda, for being you and for being here. And I'm so glad we're connected. This is a wonderful journey that we're on. So,
And Dr. B, I have my mask. I keep it around my neck.
so I think Tanai, I may be saying the name wrong, and you can help me, but it's here. So I'm going to pass the stick to you.
Tananye.
Tananye. Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm passing it to you,
Thank
Tananye.
you. I'm sorry, I was in two boxes in backstage, but I'm so grateful to be a part of this group, especially reconnecting here with Dr. Bravada. I formerly was a student in Project Marua. So I'm so happy to be here just to sit and talk about the pandemic, to be a part of this dialogue and this healing circle, because I'm also a life coach. I published the book last year, right before the pandemic, just dealing with having self-compassion. And it seems like it came right on time, because then we had this pandemic with, everybody and dealing with themselves and the mental health piece of the pandemic and COVID and quarantine and family and friends and, trauma, dealing with deaths and just how we're doing everything differently. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here with all of these wonderful people.
And so you can pass the talking stick back to me. If anybody at the end of a comment needs to pass it back, I'll operate as a moderator host and take the talking stick back. So, Tananya, you want to hand it to me?
I'm not going to be bothered with this.
Yes, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Great. So we're all learning this. Go ahead, Dr. B.
Okay, I was going to say, so could we have another round of the talking stick talking about what it was like for some of us who did take the COVID vaccine and talking about what are the barriers for people to take it? I think those two questions we should address like we did last weekend. That became a very animated conversation, and I think it was real and organic, and I think we should just start by talking about that. So if you don't mind handing the talking stick to me, I'd like to put my 2 cents in before anybody else gets to it.
You have the talking stick, Dr.
Okay.
B.
Thank you, brother. I'm taking it. So I went to get my injection on the 2nd of February. And I actually have to tell the truth. When it first came out, because I look at a lot of science fiction and I know I got a PhD and everything, but in my head I said, I think I'm gonna wait to see if these people who get injections become zombies, because you know what they do, always take some kind of virus zombie show. So I'm gonna see if people get up, arms falling off and can't, all that. So anyway, I made a joke of it, but really, really, I was actually very anxious about taking it. It took me like 3 years to get my flu vaccine, and I realized every November I would get the flu. And after I got my vaccine, I never had the flu again. And so, knock on wood. So one of the things that hit me is I did some self-talk, and my talk took me to a place of, can I afford to risk getting COVID? What will happen to my family if I fool around and get it and die? Because by then we're looking at Black folks we're the group that gets diagnosed the most. We're the group that gets hospitalized and disproportionately hospitalized because of it. And we're the group that disproportionately dies the most. So those are facts. Those are statistics. They're not made up. And so I had to do some self-talk. What would my life be if I don't at least fight to have it? I'm a Black woman. I've fought all these decades just to be free. I'm still struggling to be free. And why am I going to let myself be imprisoned by my own fear? And so I had to set it down and be courageous. I've been courageous in front of Klansmen. I haven't seen any arms drop off. It's been going on for some months now. People getting injected. I should go ahead and step on up. So with that, anybody who wants to stick, I'll pass it to you. Okay,
I'll take it. Dr. B, you got the flu because you probably were infected before you got the shot and were asymptomatic.
Well, actually, no, I didn't even have, I got the flu because I wasn't even getting the shot. After I got the shot, I never got it again. So let me be clear.
Okay, I got you there, but sometimes we could already be infected and it's just a coincidence. And just because you haven't got it again, there's many people running around here who say, I've never had the flu, I've never had cancer, I've never had this. True, you never had it till you get it. And by then it could kill you. So don't let coincidence color, facts of the matter. It's a killed virus. Now, COVID is not even a killed virus, okay? It's a protein that goes to your cell, not even to the nucleus of your cell, just to the fringes, and it identifies the COVID when it comes in, and then the army gets ready to kick some butt, okay? So it just says, I've seen you before, now I'm going to kill you. But it shouldn't kill you, okay? So don't have fear. We don't live by fear.
So I'd like to jump in and take the talking stick for a moment. I really appreciate us being able to continue to have that conversation and really focus on that word fear, because we
Yes.
talked about this in some depth last week with passion, and those are the folks that I have had the privilege of having that conversation with, and I'm sure the rest of the panel as well. And so, as we know our history, we are bound not to, with wisdom and support, not to repeat it. And so, we have folks that have minimal knowledge of our history. And so they have the knowledge of Scott Joplin and all of these illicit experimentations of research in order using us African Americans in this country as guinea pigs. And so where we're at now, because of those who fought and made and spoke up and were revolutionaries for our health and our dignity, we don't have to, we have a minimal amount of fear, which is normal, that helps us to be able to make some decisions and to question some things. But what we don't have to be fearful of is that we also now have people that look like us, who represent us, who are advocating for us to be able to give us the information in a truthful, transparent, thoughtful, dignified way. We don't have to be anybody's undignified a guinea pig. We get to take and make our own decisions of in regards to our own health. And how do we do that? We do that with knowledge. We ask questions, and we should not be ashamed to ask questions, because if you have the question, 9 times out of 10, as the teachers taught us, somebody else in the room has those same questions. So when you're making a decision about taking a vaccination, just like we as parents have to have our children vaccinated, let's have these questions and make decisions based on fact, not on premise, not on folklore, not on superstition, but thoughtful, educated answers. Because every medication, every vaccine has to have some research. We got folks at this table that are talking about that research and how that will impact the quality and the wellness of our community. And I place the stick out there to anyone who's interested.
I'd take it for a moment, if I might.
Yes, Mr.
Always,
Ted.
you always say your name when you take the stick.
For a
Say
moment,
your
if I
name.
might. This is Ted Thompson. So I was fortunate enough to be able to get the first injection. I did get it on February the 2nd. And very honestly, it was over before I could even think about it. Since I'm an older person, I remember when the idea of getting a needle was a very painful experience. The gauge of the needles in the old days, 30, 40 years ago, yes, that long ago, they were much larger. The gauge was larger. The pain was more significant. The gauge of a needle these days is much smaller, and it means that literally, if you take your finger and pluck it against your skin, that's all it is. There is no deep thrombosis or, it's just not an experience. It won't even remove the smile from your face as you're getting the injection. And before you know it, you can say, hello, the injection's over. It took about 10 seconds. That was it. I did not have reaction. There was no swelling of the area. because the needle did, go past the skin for a couple of hours. There was a touch of soreness at the point where the needle entered. But a couple of hours, it was gone. So there was no irritation, there was no headache, there was no upset stomach, there was no dizziness, there was nothing. There were no symptoms of anything that came about after the injection, and so the the understanding is you wait 15 minutes to see if you're going to have a reaction, which I did and did not have any reaction. And then the other statement is in about 12 hours, you'll see a reaction if you're going to have a reaction. So there was no reaction. And I really think that is an important piece of information for the public to understand, that this is a really simple procedure. I do understand that we have a lot of Okay, suddenly there's a huge echo. We have a lot of misinformation out there and a lot of myth out there. And so the fact that this is a lab created vaccine, I think frightens many people. Unfortunately, due to the political involvement during the time of the development of the vaccine, I think many people have confused the science with the politics of the day. I think that adds to the misinformation, along with the fact that our general level of trust for things that are unusual or unknown is fairly high within community. So we really do need to listen to the individuals who have scientifically tested, the individuals who have experienced the injection, the individuals who have not had side effects, and have the understanding that you are not only protecting yourself, but ask yourself the question, how would I feel if I transmitted this virus to someone else? That's a difficult reality to live with. And so you're not only saving your own health, but you're also protecting those in community and beyond that you care about. I'll pass the stick.
So, Ted, I have a question that continues to circulate, and anyone can answer.
Always say your name, Yolanda. Say your name.
I'm sorry, this is Yolanda Adams Lee. I apologize. I have a question that I've heard pretty frequent, and I'm sure that my colleagues on the panel, but I want to broach this question to the panel. What about things that I've read on Facebook? What about information that I'm receiving on some outside news wire or something that I've read or been given to me by others that contradict what you have said, or what's being said? Can someone speak to that?
Let me start. This is Al McFarlane. We're moving into an age of both information and.
Can I respond to that? I had a different.
Let me start.
I'm sorry.
Let me finish first. Yeah.
Moving into an age of both information and.
I'm getting the echo as well. Everybody hear me twice?
Yes.
Let me finish
I'm
first.
not sure what the reason for that is, but how about now? You still getting the echo?
So, everybody hear me twice?
You are? Yeah, I am not sure why.
What the reason
Well,
My mute
Shirley,
won't come on. It's probably me.
I'll try to get
Perhaps
mine.
if we all mute our mic, mute your mics, please, until you speak.
Shirley, I'm going to pass the stick to you.
Okay, Al, that was me, Lisa Clemens. I was going to respond. Can I respond, Al?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, so I had a different reaction to it. I will admit that there are two things that terrify me, and that's mice and needles. So I was really afraid to go and do it, but I know because I have lupus. I know that I wanted to protect me and, protect my kids too. But I did have some slight reactions, and it was more like when you have the flu, like a very mild case of the flu. So my arm hurt. My arm did hurt, and because I made the mistake of getting the shot in my dominant arm instead of my left. But I did have very, very slight chills. I did have a heavy head, not a headache, not a fever, but a heavy feeling in my head. And I was just a little bit tired. But within 24 hours, those things started to just go away. By the second day, I was feeling nothing. I could even move my arms really well. But I did have some very slight reactions to it. So I do think that it's going to be different for different people who are taking it, but it is worth the risk to take the shot. And I'm looking forward to my second shot. And I can't wait to get my mother in there to get her shot.
I think this is the time for me to actually join in the conversation because what Lisa just said has to do greatly with what I've been reading from, what has been contributed by Dr. Fauci. Everything that anybody who has taken this, whether it's second or the third, the first or the second time that you've taken it, if you have chills, if you have a little ache in your arm or your body, according to Dr. Fauci, those are the two big factors to tell you that the vaccination is working in your body. You will have those two reactions. You have a little ache in your body, and you have chills. So if you are experiencing those two, that means the vaccination is working perfectly, quote and unquote, perfectly in your body. So congratulations to everybody who has experienced that. I have experienced it. So, and I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to take it, and I'm looking forward to taking my second one too. And also, there are a lot of people who have been saying a lot of stuff on the internet about Bill Gates or somebody contributing. So all of those things, I hate to say this, and they're all, what do you call them? Urban legend. Thank you. They're all urban legend. None of that. Bill Gates has donated $1.7 billion to the development of vaccine so that everybody could be helped. So say somebody who is putting their own money, $1.7 billion of their money into developing vaccine that is helping people, is doing something else that is negative to the process of helping people vaccinated. It's, to me, a disservice to their contribution.
Al, it looks like you're back. Are you muted or can you speak? Because you're talking, okay, we can't hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, let me.
Cannot.
You're not hearing me at all. Okay.
We were hearing you twice. Now we don't hear you even once.
I hear you.
I can hear you.
you.
Let me try to pass the mic to Nanye. Ms. Hurd, do you have any comments? Because I can give you the talking stick.
Al is trying to get in.
We can hear you.
Hear him.
Yes.
No, I'll come back. Go ahead, Tananya.
Yes, thank you. I am one of the ones that definitely had reservations about the vaccine because I already have an autoimmune disease. So I have MS, and I already take a weekly shot that kind of gives me the symptoms that I've heard that the vaccine does. So it took me a while, and it took me with talking to my neurologist as well as my medical doctor to come make that decision that, you know what, you want to be well, you need to have this vaccination. And we did some things regarding my regular medication so I wouldn't feel kind of a double up on on whatever symptoms that I might be experiencing. But like I said, like everyone is saying, like really when you talk to your doctors, like get educated, that really helped me because I was one of the ones that was like, I just had all kinds of theories on what was going to happen if I took the vaccine and, how was this going to interact with this? And me already having a compromised immune system. But my doctors, my neurologists, they've really put me at ease. And now I am on the waiting list. I haven't taken it, but I'm eager to take it now. And I took the steps to get myself on a waiting list to get that vaccination. And that was from being educated. I mean, if I just stood in fear like I was, I wouldn't even be still contemplating it. I was totally against it. But like I said, education, having the proper education, because as you said, Yelly, that, there's a lot of stuff on the internet. I saw the Bill Gates thing. I've seen all kinds of things that they're trying to take our melanin and just a lot of things.
Okay.
And if you get caught up in that and not the fact, you will not get vaccinated, and that's such a detriment. So what I had to add is that, I definitely had fear. I was definitely one of the ones that was saying, I am not getting that vaccination. I am not doing it. But after education, I'm definitely doing it. I can't wait. So that was what I had to say about it. That the education has totally changed my mind on what my original fears were. And, I found out that they were basically false accusations appearing real. So that's all it was. It was fear. There was nothing to my fear. Everything that I feared, the doctors, 2 different doctors and a specialist, put me at ease. And I'm on board for having all the vaccines that come. So with that, I'll pass that on. But that I was one of the ones that was on the fence about that.
So now,
Can I
Mr.
speak to that?
McFarlane. Oh, good. I'm sorry. I just know he was trying to
speak to that.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
This is Ted Thompson again. I would like to stress that one of the important changes that I would like to see in community is that we not simply rely on a single source of information. It is very important to recognize that social media platforms have all kinds of information, some of which is totally fictitious, some of which is totally full of lies, and some of which is true. People have a lot of different agendas. People have a lot of different motivations for the comments that they make on social media. And so we really have to go to what we call trusted sources. And that means we have to use a variety of different media and printed and visual sources of information, as well as doing some reading of articles and really weighing the credibility of the information that we take in, so that we can have a reasonable and basically a smart choice, smart reaction, smart decision-making process, especially when it comes to things as critical as our health or finances or community. That would be my comment.
Dr. B, can I just make one comment? I remember when I did an article on Elder Atum, and Sherilyn left, but I'm sure she remembered this statement. Elder Atum is with the Cultural Wellness Center, founder, 25 years. Sherilyn, you're back. I don't know if you remember the comment. I said, I don't know if you remember the comment that Elder Atum made during her interview. She said, oftentimes people of color are so suspicious that they miss the opportunity that could have really served them. And I never will forget when she said that. So that kind of persuaded me to do more research on it, even though the boss man had me doing about 42 articles on COVID. I know it back and forward, but it was very powerful, and I didn't lose that. So I'm passing it back to the host.
I'll take it, Brenda. Thank you for the comment. Am I coming through single now or double still? Hearing okay. So I have a couple of things. One, I wanted to just remember, based on what Sherlyn was saying about being a kid, being actually Brenda and I in kindergarten and first and second grade, being part of mass immunization efforts. So when the question of inoculation or vaccination comes up, I immediately go to memory. And
That's
memory tells me that as a kindergartner or first or second grader, I knew and understood the work of Dr. Jonas Salk. The language in the community, the language in my school, my classrooms, language of my family, the discussion had to do with praising and the astonishing scientific accomplishment of Dr. Salk in introducing a vaccination and inoculation that would prevent polio. And we had evidence of the devastation of polio around us in our community, people we knew that had polio, but we also saw it on the news in terms of the global and national impact. So we have experience with science serving us and humanity properly. And then you look at that and you look at measles and rubella and mumps and all the other things that we've successfully used our physicians, our medical community, and even though there have been failures, the successes outweigh, the aberrations and the failures. So I am led to believe that that at the end of the day, the value and benefit of being a human being is what will emerge to help promote and support and sustain my life and my opportunity as part of this grand thing called humanity. And that's number one. Number two, I say that we are in an arena, in an age of massive information and massive disinformation. So Brother Ted is exactly right. Sister Chappelle, exactly right, in that we need to really be mindful of sources. I heard a show this morning where Dr. Ian Smith, one of the celebrity physicians, was on with PhD Dr. Karen Hunter, doing marvelous work on the internet, talking about politics, philosophy, culture. Today's program was on health. And so what he said that stuck with me, and I'm testing myself in remembering this to you, was that on the question of hesitancy and odds and science, the data demonstrates that among the 25 million or so people vaccinated, there may be a death or two. Some small number, one is too many. But compare that with the
500,000 almost.
The number infected in the country and 450,000 deaths. So look at the projection of the, maybe the first number I gave of 25 million. I don't think 25 million have been vaccinated yet, or have. Is that the right number for number of vaccinations? Does anybody know?
Let me look at my daily thing from.
But compare the numbers. If you look at the incidence of death among those who have been vaccinated and compare that to the rate of death with those who have not, who've been infected, hospitalized, and then the consequence is that the death rate is very high. So you project it out. If 25 million and one death, project that out to 10 times that, gives you 250 million people and still a relatively small number of deaths. But project out of the population, the 450,000 who've died already by 10, and you're looking at risking and losing 4.5 million people. This idea was to move towards herd immunity. So the question is, looking at it that way, the answer is obvious: get the vaccination and reduce your exposure. So the main thing I think he was saying, that I'm saying now, is information is everything. So not only do we need to inform ourselves and speak with knowledge and confidence, but we need to be intentional and prepare to debunk disinformation. Back to Sherlyn. Sherlyn called me one day and said, Al, we need to figure out a way, because you had watched somebody on Facebook, a reverend somewhere down south, talking absolutely
Washington.
nuts crazy. And you said you went and challenged her. Of course, she defriended you, cut you off, but you
Yes.
did the right thing. And so the question is, how do we, as a matter of strategy and responsibility, and a matter of always, not every now and then, but always stand against disinformation, make that part of our practice of being responsible adults, and particularly those of us who are in the healing professions and people like me in the communications industry as well. How do we encourage a protocol and community that conversation around COVID-19 and other things that appear in our lives as pandemic must be met with clear, rational, data-driven analysis and information. We change the character of our engagement. We change the level of our discussion. We walk away from and we disallow frivolity and stupidity and silliness, but we instead inculcate a commitment to clarity and power in all we do and all we say and how we engage each other. And we engage each other with the clear intent of calling forth the best idea and the best thought and the restorative spirit that we each can bring to each other. So that's my comment, and I'll pass the stick back over to Dr. B.
I appreciate it, brother. I want to say your words are inspirational. We really need to recognize that as Black people coming out of captivity, and the years and centuries of abuse and not even owning our own bodies. And so now we're in a space that we can fight for our very lives. And when somebody gives us a tool or a weapon to fight a disease that will kill us and is disproportionately killing, we have to fight for our lives. There's no space to hold on to fear, but knowing that by divine providence, each of us continue to sit here. Each of us has a right to be well, and we need to do it by any means necessary. And sometimes that biggest fight is with ourselves, our psychological fear, our fear of falling or not trusting others. Trust yourself, trust your God, and listen to the fact that you have a right to fight for your life. That's what this panel is about. That's what our team is about. We're pleading with our brothers and our sisters to recognize our value, and fight for that. Own it. Own it.
I will take over from here if you guys don't mind. Mr. McFarlane, I checked the information on CDC site. It says since vaccination distribution began in the US on December 14, more than 43 million doses have been administered, reaching 9.9% of the US total population. If the US population is about 330 million, that means we've reached at least 32.6 million people. And that's according to federal data collected by the Center for Disease Control as of January 31, 2020, which means that was about 2 weeks ago. So we're basically talking about almost reaching over 40 million by now.
Yeah, and if we're gonna, I'm sorry, I'll let you go right after. And I say if we're gonna go for herd immunity, when I think about Animal Kingdom and that herd of gazelles running across the field in the safari, yeah, as they run across that little gazelle with a limp.
Yes.
The one that's not part of the herd, that's the one the lion gets.
Yes.
So which part of do you want to be part of the herd, or do you want to be the little gazelle walking around with the limp who hasn't done what they needed to do to keep up? I'm just saying. Now, I really ended with my queen sister, Shirlene. She had a lot to
The other thing that
I didn't talk much because I've been talking all day on Marnita's table thing, 3 hours, and then yesterday, 2 hours. But it's important that we use the information like everyone else has said here. And if you have questions, I think venues where we have this kind of setting with questions, first we give out the information, then people are able to express their concerns, their fears, and then we can discuss it because that's the best way to clear up misconceptions. We can't tell you what to think, but I find that when people can actually verbalize what their fears are, and then you can meet those fears with facts, oftentimes people will think about it. If not that day, they might sleep on it the next day, because someone said that to me on Marnita's table that has heard me the day before. And she said, I thought about what you said. I really wasn't going to do it. And now I'm definitely going to take that vaccine. So it's the questioning, it's the explanations that mean the most to people. It's allowing them time to process the information and to realize I was operating in fear, and that stuff I was thinking had no basis in fact. And now that I know the truth, am I going to gamble over here and not take the vaccine and let COVID overtake me and kill me like the other people? Or am I going to take the vaccine because there's one person that has died in this country and they're not even sure it was vaccine related? Because again, you can die from COVID. You can get the vaccine and then die from COVID, but were you not already infected? See, that's the other thing. If you got cancer and then you take an anti-cancer, you take some other medication, and you say, well, I took that medication and I died anyway. Well, you already were too far gone when you got the medication. Sometimes it's just a coincidence, and we have to be rational in our thinking and help people remember those people who have had very bad reactions are the same people who carry EpiPens and who have very bad reactions to most things. We have epinephrine, and we also have Solu-Medrol or steroids and IV fluids and things to treat the condition. And if your reaction's bad enough, we'll put you in the hospital overnight, get you ready to go, and see you tomorrow. So don't be afraid and then get COVID, lose a leg, lose your lung capacity, have a stroke or a heart attack, or never ever be able to run around with your kids again. So, it's a lot there.
We're coming up on the hour, and this is an hour program. I wanted to ask Dr. B what your thoughts are, because we want to share this conversation. This is a rich conversation. It's a necessary conversation. And our intent next week is to continue this, I think, asking people to share their vaccination stories. And
Yes.
that's sort of a point of departure to talk about mental health, to talk about trauma, to talk about community, about sharing, about assets, about decision making. But it's something that's top of mind, and it should be top of mind for each and every one of us. And our plan is that when we have a conversation like this as the Healing Circle, we will convene or reconvene after the 1 hour and continue this important conversation. It's like the show after the show. If it's Dr. Phil or Oprah, you want to keep this conversation going, join us in the healing room or our breakout room after this show. So we'll be sending you information on how to do that. We'll be asking all of us to make sure that we connect with all of our networks and invite people to be part of this conversation next Friday via social media. They can either join us on YouTube or follow us on Facebook, but we want to have an expanded conversation, expanded access, a great conversation like we have had just now, where we give the human side and the professional side of how we approach our mental health, our physical health, our community's health and safety, sustainability, and broaden that conversation through this process. So, Dr. B, what do you think? This has been a great program, I believe. What are your thoughts?
I think it's been absolutely wonderful. People from diverse backgrounds, different spaces of work, different levels of expertise. And the idea is to capture this kind of conversation, just as you said, and go into that next hour where we won't do most of the talking. We'll let the community talk. And we'll be there to converse in that healing circle where every voice matters. And we will use technology, whether it be a chat or a reservation for people to talk. We will find ways to access your thoughts, your beliefs, your feelings, and we will all heal together because we deserve to be well.
So if you're watching on YouTube or checking this out on Facebook today, and we certainly will put it in the stories we do in social media next week, and you want to be a part of this program next week and in the future, just send us a note saying, count me in, or let us know that you were part of the conversation and that you want to be a participant as we move forward in the future. With that, I want to thank all of the participants here on today's program, The Healing Circle. Thanks especially to Dr. Dr. Bravada.
And I want to add thank you to Yolanda Lee, who is my I don't want to say co-conspirator, my co-facilitator in terms of getting the wellness healing circle. So go ahead, brother, please.
Well, I think this is really a great idea. That's what I think, that what we're doing is something that's innovative and that is fresh. And I'm excited that we are here together, committed to having principled, impactful conversations. And I've described this process and this technology this way. We assemble right now, it's like 9 or 10 of us in this room. But this conversation of the 10 or 9 or 12 of us is a conversation we want to share with the rest of the community and the rest of the world. And the technology affords us the opportunity to do that. So we'll all be bringing our networks to this conversation and inviting the public to join us in an exploration, a discussion about how we move forward as a community in health and in prosperity. With that, I want to thank everybody for being here, and we'll see you next Friday for the Healing Circle. I'm Al McFarlane.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Al. Brother.
There it is. Oh, there it is.
I have a question.